the women who did that, they were already like these brave warriors who would go out into the world and decided for themselves that, look, we want to be financially independent.
Welcome, Supermoms, to Mom's Talk. I am Avni, and our today's guest is a lawyer. She's joining us from New Jersey, welcoming Elizabeth George Cheniara. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Hi, Avani. Thank you so much for having me here.
Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about what role do you play as a lawyer? What do you do?
Okay, so I work for one of the state agencies called the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. And I have been part of this agency since 2020, right before COVID hit. And I've had very different roles within the EDA. And it's a very exciting place to be.
That's lovely. That's very interesting. Elizabeth, you've shared your journey with me before. You were very young when you came to this country, very young, and you came all by yourself. How was that journey like?
So I came from Kerala when I was almost 4 years old, and my parents were already settled here in the US. And at that time, we were part of the new wave of immigrants coming to this new country. And at the time, it was very expensive to have someone accompany you. So my parents had arranged for me to join a local neighbor who was traveling by herself to the US. So a complete stranger auntie who I will forever be indebted to brought me here.
How was it like? Do you have any memories of, you were very young, like 4 years old. Do you have
Yes.
any memories of that time?
I remember feeling very distressed because all of a sudden, when I was 9 months old, my mom, her name was Pankama. She had left Kerala and came to the US as part of the nursing community, and I'm sure we'll get to that later. Um, so she decided that, she needed to come for a better opportunity for her family. So was staying with my aunt, her older sister, and their family till that 4 year, till it was about I was 4 years old. So I really had no idea where I was going. It was a very frightening, I would say traumatic experience for me to
Mhm.
suddenly lose the comfort of my world and travel on this strange vehicle, a plane that I
Mhm.
never stepped on by myself.
I'm sure, and you know it's kind of a shock too. And at that young age, I mean, when you're
Mhm.
actually just trying to recognize who your parents are and build that connection, just leaving everything and then coming over in a completely different country.
It was very, a heartbreaking kind of a situation for me because I was referring to my aunt and uncle as my mommy and daddy, Russell mommy and daddy. So suddenly, to be told that I'm going away to another place where, I'm going to meet my parents, I couldn't believe that or understand that, right, at such a young age. So
Hmm.
it was very emotional for everybody, I guess, on, both my uncle and auntie who I was leaving, as well as my parents, who are waiting to receive me. So.
Sure. Elizabeth, you mentioned about your mom, and
Mhm,
you've told me this before. She's been your inspiration and that she lives in your heart even today. You get the
mhm,
strength from her. Could you
mhm.
tell us a little bit about who she was and how her journey was back in India and when she came over here? At that time, when, there were very few, as you mentioned, it was just the initial batch of immigrants who were coming to the country.
Yes. So my mom, we are from the state of Kerala, which is in southwest in India. And at the time of the 1960s and 70s, there was a need in the US for nursing professionals. So my
Mhm.
mom, along with many other Malayali, we call them so Malayali nurses, had gone to Delhi for the most part and studied at a school called Lady Harding. And so Lady Harding Delhi, they were all trained to become nurses, and slowly they would leave India and go to different parts of the world. and many of them were aspiring to come to America. So my mom came to the US and joined some of her friends who were already here. She had to make a very difficult decision to leave me when I was 9 months old and come to this foreign country by herself and join her friends.
Hmm.
So, as a person, my mom was quite remarkable because I always thought of her as like a woman of courage. I still do, because she had to make some very tough decisions for herself in her life journey. At a very young age, she had rheumatic fever, which was undiagnosed at the time. As a result of rheumatic fever, she also developed a heart condition. So, at that point in Kerala, traditions and times, there wasn't much hope for her. Society at that time had convinced her that nobody would want to marry somebody with a heart condition. So initially, even before pursuing her nursing career, she thought the best and safest place was for her to become a nun. So she had tried to join the convent. And
Hmm.
while she was there, it was a very difficult time for her because she didn't feel like that was the right place for her. And but at the time, for people from Kerala traditions, having a nun or a priest in the family was a high honor. So
Hmm.
she not only had to admit to herself that becoming a nun was not the right life choice for her, she had to convince her parents and the rest of her community that she needed to leave the convent. So I
Hmm.
can't imagine how she managed to do that. And it was because she had a very loving brother-in-law whom I called Daddy.
Hmm.
He was an advocate at the time, so he was able to go to the convent and talk to, the nuns and everyone in charge to say, Mary really doesn't belong here. So
Hmm.
with his support and love, she was able to make a decision for herself, a very difficult decision, and follow her heart and her path, and go back to her home, in Kerala in Thodupura, and just, face everybody. And I think it was
Hmm.
during that time that she and some of her friends realized that there are other opportunities by becoming a nurse, that she can, in a way, escape from that environment where it was, where she felt like she didn't have much of a future. So she had good company, and they traveled to Delhi, studied at Lady Harding nursing, and slowly by surely, by the love of her friends and the support, slowly she made the transition to the US.
Hmm. That's incredible journey, Elizabeth. Did you ever think that you will be a lawyer? What attracted you with that field?
I always loved reading and writing. As simple as that. I loved books. I was known to be one who would check out 10 books at the library, carry these on the bus with me, and everybody would think that I'm really crazy. I love books. And so my mom used to say, with all this reading and writing you're doing, and the way you used to argue with me at home as a teenager, you really should pursue, a law degree. So I remember, when I was in high school, that thought was always in my mind, even as I went on to college, and I attended Barnard College, which is an all women's, college as part of Columbia University. I
Hmm.
had my heart set on becoming a lawyer. I just didn't know what type of a law that I would like to pursue. So I remember talking with my mom about this and not feeling quite ready to start law school right when I was graduating college. And she had said, but don't give up on your dream. This is something you had wanted to do. And this is something you've talked about since you were little. And I just remember those words from her, and that gave me a sense of direction as I was
Hmm.
21 years old.
That's wonderful. You are a mother now, Elizabeth.
Mhm.
What
Yes.
would be your message for all the moms?
I would always tell my friends, my local friend moms, that, we never should lose sight of who we are as a person. In order
Hmm.
for us to be the best mom that we can be, it's important that we have an independent, separate identity from that of our children, because our children look up to us and they can tell. Children can always tell when we are feeling, happy or sad or stressed. They sense it because we give off this energy. So I tell, my friends who are moms, sometimes we have to learn to just breathe, pause. Sometimes we need a little separation from our kids or our family and whatever is, the demands that are placed on our time, and then find ourselves. It's never too late to pursue our own personal passions and interests.
That's lovely. What a lovely message, Elizabeth. Few things that you have learned from your mom. I know she has been through a lot of hardships at that time, facing her own
Mhm,
people when she decided not to be a nun anymore,
mhm,
getting into this kind of a field of nursing, coming to the US where, it's not like how it is today. Do
mhm.
you mind sharing some of the things that you have learned from your mom that you
My
practice today?
Yeah, so my mom was somebody who had a very big heart, a very she was very compassionate. And as, many of the women of her time, they had the responsibility to still take care of their family who were left in India behind, and find, whether it's through, monthly giving them some payments and financial assistance, but also bringing them here to this new country and helping them get started on their feet. And I remember my mom would always say, her love for everybody was limitless. And it used to amaze me that she would be working as a nurse in a hospital, standing on her feet all day, and then coming home and cooking fresh meals every day,
Mm-hmm.
and making that time for all of us. I never felt, neglected or unloved by my mom, because she had this capacity to love without any type of restriction or demands. And I always thought that to be very unusual, because I would think, Mom, how can you be this way? How can you stand at a stove and cook, and you've been standing on your feet all day? How do you
Mm-hmm.
manage to do that? And what I learned over time is, and I do want to mention this, my mom served as an example for me, but she and her friends were examples for all their children too. So that generation of women who came to the US as nurses, their ability to, to be, to persevere, to show compassion, to show care, and to be just brave and courageous, and to
Mm-hmm.
just, at that time too, it's very different than now, because that time nursing was not seen as a profession that everyone wanted their daughters to go into.
Mm-hmm.
There was very much a stigma around it, because it's caring for the human bodies and
Mm-hmm.
illnesses. So the women who did that, they were already like these brave warriors who would go out into the world and decided for themselves that, look, we want to be financially independent, but at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, our financial independence is not just for themselves, but it was also to support their loved ones back home. And so to this day, I'm very close to my childhood friends. All of our moms are nurses, and we look at them and we look at how easy our lives are compared to what
Mm-hmm.
they had to go through, learning new languages, navigating the bus systems, carrying groceries because they didn't have cars. And it's just unbelievable strength and love that they had for other people.
Absolutely, absolutely. We should be grateful for what we have today. Our lives are so much easier now.
Yes.
How do you manage your time? How do you keep that balance between your work and family?
So, I've learned over time, because I have great interest in working with different community organizations. My heart is with the Girl Scouts, and also with my local church. So I found that I need to, in some ways, compartmentalize how I spend my day. So when I'm working, I'm fully working. When I come home, I'm with my family. And I've noticed over the past several years that what I would do is, once the kids are gone off to bed, then I would feel a little bit more free to, whether it's responding to emails that are
Mm-hmm.
related to, the Girl Scouts, or also with my Board of Education membership position, where if I had to handle some things in that way. So I have a lot of to-do lists, and I just keep track of it that way. Because I also realized that, I have 4 children, and I've realized over time that children can tell that when you're with them, if you're really with them, or
Mm-hmm.
if you're distracted by your phone, or other someone else who's placing a sudden demand on your time, whether it's just a sudden text message or a sudden call. I'm still working on this. I'm learning to be more self-disciplined, that my time with my family is my time with my family, and they are my first priority.
Hmm.
And we have some rules in our house that when we're at the kitchen table, having a meal together, put the phones away. Put the just the, phones aren't a necessity in terms of time with our family. The time with our family is what's more precious.
Hmm. Absolutely. Rightly said, Elizabeth. It was lovely chatting with you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And thank you so much for doing what you're doing for the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ebony.